It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Dwight Howard, and he's about to descend on the Ford Center. From the Dodge Sports Desk, I'm Mike Sherman, and this is the NBA and OKC with Mike Baldwin. Mike, Dwight Howard, reigning slam dunk champion, remember the Cape, one of the best young players in the league, is coming to the Ford Center Wednesday night to play the Thunder. It looks like the Thunder's big men are in for a heck of a test.
Well, that's the one thing. Anytime an Eastern team comes to Oklahoma City, that's their one and only trip. And he's arguably the best big man in the NBA right now, and this is your one and only chance. And the Thunder people said there's a rumor out there that all the tickets are sold for all the season. This is one of those games. I think there's still 1,000 tickets left. Why would you want to come to see him? Let's say Olympic team, dominant big man, maybe not Shaq, but Shaq-like for the next 5, 7, 10 years. I mean, he's one of those special players. It will test what everybody says is an inferior part of the Thunder team, interior play, but guess what? Robert Swift, the big redhead, the guy with all the tattoos, he's actually played well the last 2 games since he finally got into the lineup and playing a little bit. So that's going to be one of the interesting matchups in this game. Is he won't play probably 20, 25 minutes, but the 15 or 20 minutes he's out there, it'll be interesting to see how Robert fares against him.
It's interesting you said Shaquille O'Neal, because actually Dwight Howard does compare very favorably to Shaquille O'Neal early in his career. Both started with the Magic. Both are just thunderous defensive and offensive presence inside. Neither can shoot free throws. Okay, but that's a load for the Thunder. You said Robert Swift is coming back strong. Is he right now, Robert Swift, sort of their best defensive answer inside?
He probably is, but that's the mystery with this guy. 4 years in the league, only 71 games. That's one season, but he's had 4. He had knee injuries for most of his career. Some of them sidelined him for entire seasons, but guess what? Now it was a hand injury in preseason. He tells us he wanted to play 2 weeks ago, and PJ just didn't think he's ready. So he's been chomping at the bit. When he came into the game Sunday night in the home game against Atlanta where the late lead slipped away, he played pretty well in limited time. They expanded his role with Chris Wilcox out in Indiana, and I thought he played really well that night. In 12 minutes to get 9 points and 7 boards, that's off the chart as far as production per minute. So he's going to be an interesting player to watch this year. I'm sure because of his lack of experience, he'll be up and down, but he's a viable big man that can guard him, and his strength supposedly rebounding, blocking shots, which is what they really need. And so this will be a good test for him, as will be future games down the road.
Okay, Mike, the Thunder comes in at 1-6, just off tough losses to Atlanta and Indiana. But the Magic struggling a little bit. They're 4-3. They had a 4-game winning streak. Lost at home last night to Portland. And here comes Orlando with one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league and then one of the best interior offensive threats in the league. That's a tough assignment for a Thunder defense, isn't it? Sort of the three-point and the interior.
And defense is the one thing they've improved on this year. I mean, they allowed 106 points a game last year. This year it's way down, about 10 to 12 points less. This will be a good test for the reasons you said. They're going to have some run-and-gun teams later in the week. They had a few against Indiana, a little bit against Utah. That's going to distort your numbers a little bit. When you play those kind of teams, your numbers will go up. This will be a viable test to see how good your defense is. And they've been energized by the home crowd. I think part of their good defense is they've had a lot of home games. I like this matchup. I mean, they've had some frustrating losses. They probably should be better than 1-6. They probably should have 2 or 3 wins right now. I can tell there's a little frustration. You can see Durant's face after that loss in Indiana. I scored 37. We played pretty well most of the night, and we lose. They really need a win, but this is one of those, if you play well and lose, there's probably still progress, but they need a win.
Okay. Now, from the Dodge Sports Desk, this is the NBA and OKC with Mike Baldwin that you're watching. Now, Mike, after the Magic game, the Thunder goes on an Eastern swing, only trip all season, to Madison Square Garden to play the Knicks, and then to Philadelphia. Could the quicker pace from those 2 teams and the bright lights of the big cities back east, could that change something for the Thunder?
Well, I think it did Monday night against Indiana. I mean, when the game was going back and forth, Indiana got its share of transition buckets, but so did Oklahoma City. I mean, it was an entertaining game, and they had their best offensive half of the year, and I think it's because they didn't have to set up in the half-court set, what play are we running, because that's the last thing they're putting in. Remember, they concentrate on defense, a little bit of the transition game. They've had offensive plays in, of course, but not the entire playbook. He said it may take the entire month of November to get the playbook in. That's why with Westbrook and Watson and even Green and Durant to some extent, they're better when they don't have to think and they're playing playground out on fast-paced basketball. That's what they're going to see this weekend, so it may help jumpstart them, but Madison Square Garden is always special for any young player or any fan that's never been there. It's a lot of fun. The Knicks are improved. It's another one of those. This team has not won on the road much last year or this year. It's really unrealistic, I think, to expect road wins, but it is one they could go in there and win a game if they play well. They could have won in Indiana the other night.
Okay, now let's talk about the Knicks, who are totally trying to change the culture and needed to change. But Mike D'Antoni, the former run-and-gun coach from the Phoenix Suns, the shooting 7 seconds or less guy, now he's in New York, and the Knicks are 4-2. What's going on there with the Knicks?
Well, this was a franchise in disarray. I mean, I wouldn't call them the Oakland Raiders of the NBA, but I mean, they're hiring players that are past their prime, too much money. The salary cap was a mess. They bring in a new coach, a new GM, and the early signs are positive. If nothing else, they're going to be a fun team to watch. I always liked watching the Phoenix Suns, and I think a lot of people did, not necessarily just because you run and shoot real quick, but you're fast-paced. You're shooting a lot of threes. You're getting up and down the court. It's not this walk-up, bump, bump, bump. You're hearing the music in the background, half-court set, who's going to get the rebound. They're going to be a fun team to watch, and they're off to a good start because they're scoring points and they're buying into his system. Will it last all season? Will they make the playoffs? Probably not, but they're going to be improved, and they're going to be fun to watch.
Okay, speaking of will it last, the Kevin Durant we've seen the second half against Utah, most of the game at home against Atlanta, and then Monday night in Indiana, a whole game, 37 points. That looks a little bit or a lot more like the guy here, folks in Big 12 land saw him burn orange for Texas. Can Kevin Durant carry the scoring load like that night to night now?
Well, he relies too much on his 15, 17-foot shots to do it night in, night out, every night. But the nights he's on, like he was in Indiana, he's going to be the 30-plus. The nights he's not, he should be, realistically, 18 to 25. He should give you at least 18 every night. One, he'll get more shots than his teammates. But the interesting thing, my tag team partner Darnell Mayberry says, is he's played so well on the road and not well at home. Is that an aberration early in the season? Is he putting a little pressure on himself in the Ford Center? I don't know, but he's looked a lot more comfortable, a lot better player on the road. Maybe it's just one of those, little quirky things the first 2 weeks of the season, but boy, in some of those road games, he's looked really well. And when he's on like that, that's why they probably should have won Monday night. When you got a guy like that that's just red hot going for 37, to me, that's one thing I think Westbrook and some of these other players learned, though. Late in the game, set it up, get it to your hot guy. Sometimes he didn't touch the ball when there were some key possessions late in games. I think that's where Watson knew that, and he would take the ball out and try to get it to him. But that's where Russell Westbrook, even Jeff Green a little bit, has a tendency just to fire it up. Yeah, I'm open. Well, if Kevin Durant's hot, you don't fire it up. You let him fire it up. That's where this team's learning as they go. They've had a lot of positives along the way, but they've had some tough learning lessons. One of them is when Durant's on fire, feed him the ball.
Hey, Mike, that's good stuff. Listen, be sure to pick up a copy of the New Look Oklahoman for the pregame and postgame analysis on Wednesday's Magic Thunder game, and stay with the best coverage team anywhere, every day at newsok.com.